You ready? It's the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon.
Welcome to the Roundtable, everybody. My name is Robert Bannon. You're listening to us on the Broadway Podcast Network or watching us on Broadway World or over here on social media. You know, I love musicals and I love Broadway and I love singing and dance, but I love when people are able to tell stories and act their faces off on stage. And I love hearing about people from different cultures, different places. And there's a performance coming, you all. It's opening night for our next people right now. You're watching on the weekend, but they just opened. So you're already a couple days behind. You better get your ticket. Where have you been? Come on, grab your tickets. We're talking about the beautiful land I seek. And we have the writer and we have the direct, we have the people. They're the fancy people that make it all happen with an incredible cast. So let's please welcome them. Matt Barbot. I'm going to say it right, maybe.
So let's hear it.
Matt Barbot.
There we go. We got it. Yeah.
And José Zayas.
Yes. It cannot go either way. It's potato.
No, it makes me
Spanish and Zayas.
I'm never nervous to talk to educated, amazing, talented people until I have to pronounce their name. Then all of a sudden I start to sweat. Congratulations, everybody. We're so excited for you both.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You know, I was thinking about this show while we were talking here, as I'm literally in a classroom full of first generation Americans who have come here, who live in this country for the first time with their families. I hear a lot of stuff on the news. We all do. We all hear about what's going on in terms of the world. And when we think about people who immigrate to the United States, and you wrote a show about, I never heard of the story like this, Matt, in the 1950s, people fighting for independence or people longing to belong. What is the show about?
What a big question. Well, I first heard about the story of Oscar Collazo and Griselda Torresola when I was, I don't know, it was probably about more than 10 years ago. It was something that I was sort of interested in, largely because it's a story that I hadn't heard about and a lot of people I know hadn't heard about. There's two Puerto Rican nationalists who sort of in the wake of the U.S. response to an uprising on the island, decided to travel to Washington D.C. and attempt to assassinate President Truman. Just bring awareness to the issues of Puerto Rico's status, of the military response to sort of nationalist parties, like sort of some unconstitutional laws that have been passed there regarding free expression. So that sort of stuck with me for a very long time. I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to write something about them on a train, and I didn't really know how to approach it. And that happens a lot. I've seen sort of like the seed of an idea for a long time, and it wasn't really until the Hurricane Maria and the sort of U.S. response to that. My grandmother was on the island. She had to leave to come here. She passed away here on the mainland, and that sort of got me sort of thinking about a lot about the situating current events in the context of this more than a century of struggle, and so I think that sort of sweep of history really inspired me to have a little absurdist fun with it also, and bring in characters from art and history, sort of play with a world whose rules are breaking down, and hope and gladly that wasn't too weird for my collaborators.
Well, it's a story in history that I never knew, and I don't think a lot of people have any idea. José, what was your reaction? How did you come into this project, and what was it like when you first read it?
Well, I never heard of the story either. And so immediately I was struck by working on a historical piece that had amazing breadth and range, and sort of what I love about Matt's writing. Matt and I had collaborated before on a couple of shows. He reminded me the other day that this is our 11th year of collaborating. So it's really exciting. So I knew what I was getting into when I read it, but I was so surprised by the depth of it and sort of the remarkable imagination, that it all takes place in a tiny train compartment, but that all of history sort of goes through there. So as a director, immediately you're solving problems. You're excited by the possibilities. You're excited by the possibilities of working with actors who are going to have to really stretch themselves and have to work in a very unexpected mode and tone, because you never quite know what it's going to do. The rules of the play keep changing constantly, and so I just became very excited by the possibilities of everything, of creating the world, of trying to make sense of it, and it's a great gift. It's a gift for designers. It's a gift for collaborators, and I think it's a great gift for all audiences. I mean, I know Latinos and Puerto Ricans right now in particular are really loving it, but people who are not of the culture and are seeing it are finding great universality in it. And that's what one hopes from the best work when one reads it. And I think Matt's accomplished that beautifully.
Well, I want people to, while we're talking, I want people to know the beautiful land I seek. You can get your tickets. You can go to the website. There's a link below us. The link is also here. It's also in the description, so you can get your tickets. It's a limited run, so you don't run and get your ticket and go and see the show, because I don't want you have until the 29th of December. That's all. José and Matt, you both have careers like that have got. I think José's done like 100, directed like 100 plays.
A little bit more at this point. I think when I put that in my bio a couple of years ago, I think it's probably over like 135 at this point.
135 plays.
Very
José,
prolific.
very prolific. You look so young. I think you got to be directing like what 10 a year or something.
There was a period where I was doing that. I mean, I'm talking about all kinds of like small in basements and apartments and universities. So I'm counting all of it, But yeah, absolutely. I've been very lucky with that.
And Matt, you have not always been a playwright. You were born in New York. You were originally an actor. So what makes someone say like I'm an actor, and then you say like I have something to say? What was the inspiration that you decided I'm going to write?
Well, I had always been interested in writing, and then I got into theater through acting, I think as so many people do. And then I think because I had a prior interest in.
Do you hear?
I'm not hearing you.
We don't hear that.
The beauty of technology.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. That's
okay. Great. Let me. My headphones betrayed me.
No worries. It happens.
So I got into theater through acting in high school. I just wanted to try something new. But I had always been kind of interested in writing, and I had planned to just sort of major in English and maybe something else. And then I wound up majoring in theater as well, because I realized it was going to be a little bit more than a hobby for me. And so I think I was acting, and I was having a good time, but I think there was like at some point I realized that like I maybe wasn't having as much fun in rehearsals as the other actors, and because I had this like I was I felt like I was into like theater, but I felt like there weren't always like a ton of roles that I felt like I was that were available to someone who looked like me, and so I wrote a couple of things for myself, and I did those in some spaces like the Brick in Williamsburg, and some downtown spaces. Under St. Mark's and things like that. And then it wasn't really until I wrote the play Infallibility, which was a two-hander that didn't have a role for me in it, and I did that at Fringe in 2013, that I was like, oh, that's where it is for me. I think I being part of that process and realizing like the possibilities there were that was a I think when it clicked that I was more interested sort of in approaching from this side. And I feel very lucky that I got that chance. I think a lot of people, again, come in through acting, and then if they fall out of love with that, they sort of they fall out of the art form. I had a friend once say to me that she was thinking of quitting theater or becoming a dramaturg, and I was like, well, I think you should try the dramaturgy first, because I think there's and so I've since then, when I've done when I've been like a teaching artist or things like that, I've always really advocated for more playwriting in educational levels too, because I think I think it's best to be exposed to as much as possible, because I think there's a real I don't think students are always like super aware that there's more that you can do besides like acting, or I guess a lot of students are tech people also, but you can do it all.
You can do it all. Absolutely. And you made your own yes and put up your own shows now. And Jose, what makes someone say, I want to be a director? Are you just an innate boss, Jose? Is that what it is? You just want to boss us around? Tell us.
No, not at all. I started as a writer. I started as a writer in undergrad, and I had a couple of plays done in school. I was in Boston. I did a couple of shows there, but I did everything. I was light designing, stage managing. I was just trying to figure out theater. And then my junior year, someone asked me to direct a play, and the first play was "Good Night, Desdemona, Good Morning, Juliet" by Anne Marie MacDonald, and followed by a evening of 3 original works written by the students in the school. And I just fell in love with it. It just sort of felt like it was the best way for me to collaborate. But jokingly, I thought I'm going to become a director so that I can direct my own work. And I did end up directing my own work towards my stay there. But I just ended up loving really just sort of going into the collaborative process. Started with a lot of classics, and then I went to Carnegie Mellon, and under Mylan Stitt, we had a class where every Friday we would meet with the playwrights of the program, and we would just direct readings. We would work with playwrights directing these readings, and it was amazing. I mean, he was really like preparing us for what it would be like to be in New York. So as soon as I got to New York, I knew how to direct readings. I knew how to look at new work, and that's what I saw. I started working at Here Arts Center. I did the box office there for a while, and I did development there. And I got to meet a lot of really amazing folks from the downtown world. And then I got a Van Leer to work in Repertorio Español, and I became the resident director there. And that just sort of skyrocketed. Since then, I mean, a lot of playwrights have been coming to me, working with me. I've been very lucky in that regard. And I don't think I'm bossy. I think I'll also, I don't think I'm interested in the bossy part of it. I usually hate it. I like to think that I'm more of I like the collaborative aspect. I love not knowing what's going to happen. And then hopefully you get a lot of interesting people in the room. I mean, I can be very clear about what I want if the room needs me to be clear, but I'm not always necessarily wanting that. I think I've tried to be as good a listener as possible. And there are things that I think will make something better, but I'm more than happy to be proven wrong, hopefully most of the time. But yeah, it's always sort of a delight to be in a room with really smart people and to create something hopefully really delightful and intelligent.
And I'm sure you guys have. And Matt, my question for you is, when you put the words on paper and then you kind of hand, I know you work collaboratively with someone like Jose and a team of producers and a cast, but you give your words, your babies that you spent countless hours editing and reading and having people read, and then you trust it over to a director. So what is the dance like between the writer and the director in the rehearsal space to make everyone's vision kind of come to be seen?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think like part of the reason it's theater and not novels, right, or things like that is because of that collaborative aspect. And I think I'm always a big fan of being surprised in a room or learning about it in a room, particularly in a process that's been, this long. So often, and you're only given a couple of weeks, and then you're you're just trying to get it on its feet. But this was first sort of developed and read publicly by Fault Line Theater in 2022. I received I was part of the Irons in the Fire program in like 2019 going into 2020, which meant that we didn't actually do the reading until 2022. But it was most of the same cast. We now are working with the same cast from the workshop that we did with Fault Line last year. And so something that happens over that course of the course of a process like that is that, people's relationship to the text really deepens, and they understand it. And they're, I think like I'm a big fan of, getting feedback in the room and learning what feels right or what's, maybe a little bit, where we might cut back, where we might need a little more, where something is confusing, where something maybe doesn't need to be said. I think over the course of, actually, José directed I met José directing a reading of a play called El Coquille Espectacular and the Bottle of Doom, which interestingly is going up at Long Wharf next month. But all through all that time, I think that was 2013. I've come to know José as someone who is a really great like dramaturg and mechanic of plays. And I think that I say that he puts a lot of pressure on the play, but I don't mean expectations. I mean that he puts a lot of, I mean in the sense of like really testing things. I think he likes to see where the wheels fall off of something, and then we can put it back together, or really questioning. I find that sometimes in the tension between me wanting to keep something and José recommending that we cut it, is where we clarify why it's there, or what it's doing, or what it needs to become, to sort of make more sense. And I think those are and I think that's the sort of like necessary sort of questioning and interrogation and exploration that happens, and that is so integral to new play development. And so I think I'll always send José my first drafts.
Hey.
And I'm always so grateful for that. I mean,
Yes.
in regards to that, I think that technically, when I ask those questions, it's my job to make this work. I've worked with authors who won't change a word, but when I get to that section that I'm confused by, or it's not clicking, or it's not working, I'm not afraid to say, what happens if you cut it? What happens if it's not there? What's it doing? Why aren't we at that moment? Why are we encountering this bump? And as much as sometimes it clarifies what I need to know, and nothing will change, or it clarifies to such an extent that then he knows what needs to happen. And because he's also been an actor, he really listens to actors. He's really listening to their rhythms, to what they need. He knows what it's like to be up there, and that's why he writes such great dialogue. I mean, he understands these rhythms very well. And I mean, even though I think he's a really philosophical writer, and I think he's really being driven by ideas, I think he's also got an amazing sense of how a play sounds. And I'm someone who thinks of it that way first. I'm listening to the sound of a piece. Like when I'm the opening days of a play, I will watch it. But around the fourth day, if we have a long period preview process, I would just sit outside and listen. And I'm hoping that the mechanics of that and the sound of it makes sense. And then once you add the audience laughter into it, I could kind of feel the entire flow of it. I'm like, great, it's working. So it's a beautiful piece of music.
Well, José, tell us while we're here, what is this cast? You have a pretty all-star cast. They're pretty talented on their own right. So who are the actors that you get to work with in the show? Tell us a little bit about them.
Daniel Colon, who's playing one of the swings, Christopher Columbus, for instance, Hamilton. He gets to rap and sing. He gets to play Harry Truman. Just a multi-hyphenate, very funny artist, Ashley Mary Ortiz, who's playing people like Lolita Lebron, and an FBI agent, and Maria from West Side Story. Same thing, really remarkable range. They have to do a lot very quickly. They're clowns, but they have to be clowns with great depth. Then there's Nate Betancourt, who's playing the writer, basically Matt, and he's very funny, very witty. And then Alejandro, oh my God, I'm blanking on Alejandro's last name right now.
Hernandez.
Thank you, Jesus. All these names in my head. Alejandro Hernandez and Bobby Roman are playing Oscar and Gris. And these men they carry the show. Their relationship is what really drives everything. And they have to be clowns, they have to be philosophers, they have to be men of action. And they have been doing this since day one with us. And they've really sort of like thrown themselves into the complexities of it. I'd say that, what Matt's created is a Puerto Rican version of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead and waiting for Godot. And that these men have to sort of like really embrace the absurdism of it and the style of it. And both these actors are doing, I think, really remarkable work. You're in strong hands. You feel that from the beginning, and the audience. And this is the trick with Matt's play. It asks a lot of an audience. It asks a lot in terms of understanding the rules of the world, of the mechanics of it, in terms of really like getting there's a density in it that the trick is making it feel light. And I think they've achieved that beautifully. So we've been very lucky to have this cast with us since the workshop. And they're also like politically really passionate about the material. They believe in it so intensely, and that comes through like really well.
How important, it's as timely as ever that you go check out this show. It literally is something that we need to see. Matt, who are the partners that you're working with in this show? The space, the organizations that are helping you put this work on. There's a couple of different groups that are involved. What are they doing, and why is it important that your show is being done with the people it's being done with?
It was really great to work with Faultline Theater. I think I hadn't worked with them. I was aware of their program, Irons in the Fire, which is a play development program. Aaron Rossini, who's the artistic director of Faultline, likes to say that when I submitted the play, it was like 2019. The deadline was coming up. I had this idea. So I submitted, and it was like 30 pages of something, but he likes to say that it felt like he could tell it was a Faultline play. And so having that kind of synergy and like of kind of like what we like to work on, the fact that he saw it and said, this is for us, I think has been really fruitful. And just sort of having, that program is really wonderful insofar as like it's kind of, you get a lot of space to ask for what you need. So they're interested in tailoring the experience to whatever the playwright needs for development. So whether that means like, I asked for some dramaturgical support, and maybe an internal reading before we shared, and so like, sort of getting this play to, moving forward, chugging along, was really great. And we put up the reading, which is well received. And then Faultline invited me back for the workshop, their plays and previews program, which we were part of the inaugural sort of duo of plays for that program, which is great because there's not a lot of, and again, I think points to Faultline's commitment to new play development, because there's not a lot of opportunities between readings and full productions, and plays really need that. I think there's a lot you learn about a play just by sort of getting it on its feet, moving around.
And design. Not only was it just moving around, they fully designed it for us.
Sure, yeah. No, and you can see, I think the core of a lot of the same team came along with us to where we are now, and so you can see that sort of like the core of the design is pretty similar. And I think so to have all those elements sort of applied and sort of seeing how things move, and sort of like live as a piece of theater and not just sort of something read at music stands, is, I think, a very important sort of middle step, and has been very valuable to this process. We also worked a little bit on that with the Latinx Playwrights Circle, which is an organization that was founded a couple of years ago, and has been a really incredible group, in terms of supporting Latin playwrights in New York. It's based, I think, on a similar organization in Chicago. And it's I think because of the way that they have, because of like the trove of plays that they've developed over the years, and the needs of the community, I think their transition to to producing has really been fruitful for them as well. So they produced Kristen Cato's Sancocho a couple of years ago at WP. They produced Nelson Diaz Marcano's Las Borinqueñas at EST last year. So it's really an honor to sort of be to have them as partners on this as well. And then of course, like, PRTT, Pregones PRTT has been incredible. It's such an honor to work with them. I think there's really a lot of history in the literal exposed bricks of their walls over there on 47th Street. I think, like I've said that, I've been sort of taught the definition of humbling to have the artistic director Jorge Merced come in to our first rehearsal and talk about premiering the Ox Cart there with Raul Julia, decades ago, and how, and sort of just to know, to sort of feel that legacy, trudging up the stairs there to the rehearsal space on the fourth floor, because it's a converted firehouse. It's really cool. I mean, it's worth coming to just to see the space. But to sort of feel that history and feel that legacy and sort of to know that we are making some small contribution to it has been really, I don't know that I knew what humbling meant before, but it's been that.
It's really exciting. Congratulations to you both.
Thank you so much.
Everybody watching, get your tickets. Jose, I'm sure that it's not, I'm sure there's a huge Hispanic audience that is excited to see it, but I'm sure it's for people who are just interested in art, theater, culture, and to hear a story. Who's the show for, Jose?
I think the show is for people who are interested in history, for Latinos, for adventurous theater goers, for people who want a good laugh, and for people who love theater in general. Because it is a show at the end of the day about theater. There's a lot of meta commentary on it about how the form works, and I think everybody who comes to see it really appreciates that. It really connects to that. So this is an invitation to all.
Come on down. The beautiful land I seek. You have until December 29th only. So you better grab your tickets while you can. And then to Matt and Jose, I wish you all the best. Break a legs. Happy opening night. I hope this is going to be an epic run of this show. And I'm sure that there's so much more work and many more places that this show is going to be. And there's so much more work that you both have up your sleeves, and we're here for it. So thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. It's a pleasure. It's great.
Get your tickets and follow and stay up to date on what all is going on, because they have stories to tell. And we'll look forward to being here. Thank you for the art you make, and happy holidays. Enjoy. Happy New Year, and let's go.